Raina Troy Hotline.
Alicia, Michael, what's going on?
We know you have takes. We have takes.
I'm actually surprised that your rant line, rave line, whatever, isn't completely full.
Why can't we just win a game?
Can I blame Michael Castillo for this?
Can I blame Bob Connolly for this?
Can I put on a zebra shirt and just go out there? Scratch, claw, up against the wall. Can't explain what I'm feeling right now, guys. I can't believe it.
Let's open up that rave line! Woohoo!
Oh, I can't believe USC is 7-5 again. Oh no!
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Rant Line Radio, episode 576, coming to you on Monday, November 25th. It's Thanksgiving week and also rivalry week yet again. USC beats UCLA 19-13 on Saturday, and this upcoming Saturday they will face the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, with the Irish coming to town hoping to get into the playoff. But we're going to look back at SC's win over UCLA, talk about it. You can follow us on social media at Rant of Troy, like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Rant of Troy, email address rantoftroy@fanside.com, and our phone number 818-643-7227. Second What's Brewing Show. I'm your host, Michael Castillo, joined with my co-host here in the Rant of Troy studio in Los Angeles, Alicia Derritol.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Cam in the chat says, I have to commend you, Michael. Hold on. Where is it?
Have to commend you, Michael.
Yeah. For showing up to the Fallen episode. I am here. Believe it or not, I'm here. It took effort.
It did.
We are going to talk about the game that we said that we were never going to talk about ever again.
Yep.
But it's all right. We got a bunch of calls and emails and all that stuff to get to. Alicia, how excited are you for the second version of rivalry? Like, do you get overwhelmed by the rivalries being back to back?
No, because usually it means, like, if USC loses the first one, then you always have the chance for redemption on the second one. I like the season ending with Notre Dame.
Double or nothing's not always fun.
This is true. I like the end of the season being rivalry time.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah, I agree. The year that SC finished with BYU was
not
weird.
That was a weird.
Like I get it. I understand it. It made sort of logical sense considering that BYU needed somebody there and SC sort of needed an odd year team to fit in there or whatever. But didn't help that was the season nobody cared about. So
I don't know what that game would have felt like if USC hadn't been what USC was in 2021. So.
Yeah, exactly. Can you remember before that the last time that SC played a non-Notre Dame out of conference game to end the season?
I certainly do not.
I believe it was 1999.
And that would be why. I certainly do not.
Louisiana Tech against Tim Rattay. Was it
how SEC of USC to do that?
Well, the Fresno State game was in November. That game was like rivalry week, basically. SC played Fresno State. The same week that, I don't know, some SEC team was probably playing the Citadel or something like that week. But, alas, here we are. Talk more USC football. Let's get straight into the news, shall we? Whenever I can find the button for that. I forgot I took it off. All right.
You don't want me to you don't want me to do the horn thing
You
again?
could. You could. You almost sound like you're doing the Addams family.
I mean, I might be.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. All right. Let's get into the news. Riveting show we got going on here. Let's talk about a little bit about recruiting before we move on to some other stuff. Alicia, you wrote in our rundown, it's fliptastic and a fliptastrophe.
Thank you for highlighting that because I was
Not
kind of
bad.
proud of it. Kind of proud of it. Yeah. Okay, we're just gonna do a quick recruiting rundown. We got to be quick about this show because I have places to be tonight. So
get a hot date.
we're not gonna talk specifically about any of these, but to just keep you all apprised, know that we will talk more about all of this stuff on signing day when these things actually solidify. Until then, never assume that someone is committed and will actually sign, and never assume that somebody who isn't committed can't possibly sign. That's just the way it goes. So, the good news, or Michael? Do you want the good news or the bad news?
You're stealing my little bit. Let's go with the bad news first.
Okay, the bad news is 4-star linebacker Ty Jackson from Loxahatchee, Florida, flipped from USC to Florida. 3-star athlete Dwayne Morris from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, flipped from USC to Tennessee. And 3-star offensive tackle Carday Smith from Mobile, Alabama, decommitted, and he is expected to end up in Colorado. That is the flip-tastrophe. These have all happened since Juju Lewis and others have flipped other places because this is just what you do at the end of November. You just flip, flop, flip, flop, flip. Mm-hmm. That's the bad news. The good news is 4-star offensive tackle Alex Payne from Gainesville, Georgia, flipped from North Carolina to USC.
Let's go.
3-star athlete Nella Tupou from Folsom, California, flipped from Utah to USC. And 3-star defensive lineman Cash Jacobson committed to USC. He's from Jenks, Oklahoma. He committed to USC over Oklahoma. So you got 3 going out. You got 3 coming in. We expect. It's like Big Brother. Expect the unexpected until signing day. Mm-hmm. Anyone could flip, and the good thing and the bad thing about flipping is that anybody could flip away, but also anybody could flip to you. So that's your recruiting minute. There's literally not much to say.
Yeah, you need more. You know where to turn. Over to the guys at the was it the 2-star pod?
Yes.
USCfootball.com.
Yeah.
Ferris Tower podcast. All right. In true Big Brother fashion, we'll talk more about SC and UCLA in this episode. But first, we have to go talk about stats. Some good old stats with Michael stuff. I think we have to start off with the new FEI.
The pride of FEI.
Alicia, SC is now 18th in FEI. They dropped 2 spots after beating UCLA.
See our negativity about the way that USC beat UCLA justified by FEI.
Just barely. They are still the highest rated team with 5 losses. The best 5-loss team in the country, baby.
And I saw a tweet this earlier today that was talking about how USC has the second smallest margin of defeat for teams that have more than 3 losses. Cal is the one that's ahead of them.
Yeah, they've had a bunch of scrapers too that haven't gone their way. SC 18th is a team. Florida, the other 5-loss team that's close at 23. Oklahoma at 26. Then you get to Minnesota, Nebraska, and Kansas 30th. Kansas, they're 5 and 6, 4-6 against FBS teams, but they're 30th and 5 and 6, which is nuts. But they've had a bunch of good wins for them. SC is now 19th in offense. That offensive number is plummeting. It was 12 last week, all the way down to 19. The defensive number, I think it was like 37 last week. Now it's 29, moving up. 61st in special teams, which is good. Okay, let's talk about special teams a little bit further, though. We've got to get into everyone's favorite punter since Ben Griffiths.
Oh my God.
Eddie Czaplicki, the transfer from ASU in his second year as a Trojan. Alicia, I've got numbers for you. He's averaging 48.8 yards per punt. Most by a Trojan, highest by a Trojan. Since All-American Tom Malone back in 2004, Malone was over 49 yards that year. Czaplicki is not qualified for the national leaderboard because he doesn't have enough punts. But if he did, he'd be 3rd in average, number 1 in net punting, And in order to qualify, he needs 7 punts against Notre Dame on Saturday. I don't think that's impossible. I don't know that you want him to punt 7 times. But
he punted 7 times against Michigan.
It could happen. It could happen. You could potentially see that happen.
The problem is last year against Notre Dame, he only punted 3 times.
A lot of
that
picks.
Was because of the turnovers. Yeah. He's punted 7 times in a game twice in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Cal and Michigan.
Yeah. That Cal game is insane because there were 7 punts in that game for SC, and there were like 8 million points.
Yeah, 7 punts and USC scored 50 points. It's
mind-boggling.
Wild.
The opposite of this year's Minnesota game. The polar opposite. All right, let's talk about his numbers a little bit further here. 19 of his 36 punts this season have been for 50 yards. 22 of them have pinned teams inside the 20. I've decided pinned inside the 20, my least favorite stat.
Because it's not the actually impressive one.
It's not impressive enough. Pins inside the 10 are impressive. If you pin a guy at the 19, cool. I get the value, but like inside the 10 is the one that like really is impressive. And he's done that a bunch. In the last 3 games alone, Czaplicki has 10 punts. All 10 of them have pinned opponents inside of the 13, 8 of them inside of the 7. The average starting field position for USC opponents on the 10 ensuing drives after punts the last 3 games, the 6-yard line. It's like 5.8 or something like that. Is that insane or what?
It's wild, and it's something that I think that it's easy to overlook punters and their importance because most of the time you're looking for a neutral from your punter. Mm-hmm. And what USC is getting from Czaplicki is far more than neutral. He is a net positive on both sides of the ball.
Yes.
He is pinning opponents back, making it difficult for them and easier for USC's defense. Every time USC has to punt, he's flipping the field on behalf of the offense. So if the defense gets the stop on the other side, it is much more likely that USC's offense is going to end up with really good field position. And we saw that come to pass against UCLA with the starting field position, the average starting field position being, almost to the 50, which is just absurd. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is because of the job that Czaplicki did in pinning UCLA back a bunch of times. He's a weapon offensively and defensively, and he's just you and I were talking in the car earlier today on our way to lunch. Like the crazy thing about him is that he's neither a boomer or a pinner. He's both. He's not just
he's both of those.
He's not just like putting his boot behind the ball and just seeing how far it'll go. Mm-hmm. When he has room to kick far, he boots it 50-plus yards and flips the field. But also, when he is closer and needs to do precision punting, he is doing that to a degree that I cannot remember a USC punter doing. And having both of those skill sets is absolutely incredible. No. And it is going to suck when he doesn't win the Ray Guy Award. Because
I don't think he's going to win it. For a couple of reasons. A, the way so many of these media awards go. And by the way, this is not a critique on the media voting because it's who is watching all of the punters. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Realistically, the voters who have a vote there are basing it. They're going to CFB stats and looking at who has the best punting average.
Yeah, and he doesn't qualify to be on those leaderboards, which I think makes it difficult for him. I think that he would be able to supplant that if his average was number 1 by an obvious margin. He missed the qualification, but he was averaging 52 yards or something like that, right? Then I think that yes, I think he could get eyeballs that way. The other thing is, the inherent, issue of SC not being a great team. And that aspect of it. I think it does help, though, that SC is like up there with like Georgia, maybe, for like probably the most watched team in America this year, considering all the big games that SC played early on, the LSU game, the Michigan game, the Penn State game. Like, those were all like appointment TV stuff, like games for people around the country, like nationwide, right? Like objectively. So I think that would help him. The problem is his best 3 games have been the last 3 games. Not that he hasn't been good before that. We were talking earlier today that like his longest punt is 62 yards, but he's had 19 punts more than 50, which means that like he is just like consistent as hell. It's not like he is like Tom Malone was a boomer. He would hit a 70-yard punt and then a 65-yard punt. And I think that helped his average, but also like he was capable of like just having a crazy leg like that. And Czaplicki is very good and reliably good to the point of like he wins every punt that he needs, dependent on what it is. And I think part of the problem in the SC UCLA game is that, yeah, he was pinning UCLA deep, but almost every one of those drives, as good as SC's defense has been of late, frustrating that like TJ Harden just rattles off a 40-yard run on the first play of the drive, or there's a long play on the next one, a pass to the J. Michael Sturdivant for 20 yards. You know what I mean? Like there were a couple times where it's like you wish that the defense and then subsequently the offense could take more advantage of this kind of stuff, because he's doing his job. He's doing his job to make things better for the Trojans. All right, let's get into the game a little bit more. Alicia, you've had a couple days to simmer on it, to think about it, to look back. We got lunch with our buddy Jake from the What's Bruins show today. By the way, we should have made him pay for us. What were we doing?
We should have. Why don't we think about these things beforehand?
Unbelievable. That should have been the bet. Was a lunch bet. What were we thinking? Jeez. Anyways, any new revised thoughts before we get to like over under and stuff?
I'm still not. The more I think about it, the more I hope that my mood on the CarCast, that it was a little bit, I wish I had been a little bit more clear that I think that USC's players continue to play hard. I think that USC's players put their bodies on the line. And generally, I think that USC's players played reasonably well against UCLA. I don't think USC played a bad game, which is why I was so angry, because it felt like a game where the coaching staff, with some of the decisions that they made, specifically Lincoln Riley, some of the decisions he was making, really hindered his players, his team, a team that could have had a much bigger victory in this game, and that's, I think, what was so unfortunate in my view. One thing I will say is that sort of contemplating the whole Miller Moss, Jaden Mayava thing, I think that Mayava in this game was not great. I thought he struggled for much of the game, but I think the argument for the Mayava over the Miller thing is that in the end, Miller Moss wasn't getting the job done at the end of games, and USC was losing games. Not necessarily because of what Miller Moss was doing in the first 3 quarters. Other people were sort of shooting USC in the foot in a lot of those. But in the fourth quarter, it felt like Miller Moss didn't have that sort of clutch gene. Sure. And obviously a much bigger sample size, but the stats sort of bear it out. So his passer rating in the first quarter is 123, second quarter 152, third quarter 142. His fourth quarter passer rating is 117. He had three interceptions to 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, 56.8% completion percentage. Jaden Mayava, obviously significantly smaller sample size, almost to the point where we can't really compare it. But it seems to me that Jaden Mayava is at his best on like the final 2 drives, where Miller Mouse was at his worst on the final 2 drives. And that ultimately has been the difference for USC in these last 2 games that were similar in spirit to previous games that USC lost at the death.
Yeah.
But in these last 2 games, USC scored points in the fourth quarter and put the game away. And it does help that the defense comes through and gets the stops at the end of these games compared to previous, where USC scored, it was against Maryland or Minnesota, or one of those games where USC did score and then the defense didn't get the stop. So it sort of doesn't always track completely. But I do think that in the end, the Mayava factor has helped USC win games in those final moments where you just need somebody to be clutch.
Yeah.
And he seemed to do that. But also I think over these 2 games, we've seen exactly why he wasn't starting over Miller Moss, and why USC offensively this season, it would seem, didn't have any great options at quarterback, understanding that Miller Moss is a perfectly decent quarterback. He's just not a great quarterback. And Jaden Mayava is a perfectly decent playmaker, but he's not a great quarterback. So, USC sort of stuck in that C area at quarterback.
Yeah.
But if both options are going to be sort of C grade levels, then I'll take the guy who's an A on the final drive.
I think that's fair. I think the only pushback I give to that, and again, this is just small sample size, and it's not necessarily a fair comparison here, but like Miller's struggles at the end of games were against Penn State or against Michigan.
Yeah.
Maryland too, so that like certainly included there. Jaden Mayava wins this game against UCLA and then wins last week against Nebraska. I think the Nebraska game for him in the second half was very good. I don't know that he was remarkably better in the second half of this game. I thought that there were definitely more screens in the second half of this game, which I think made it a little bit easier for him. There's also the big play that sort of gets all the momentum for SC is the double pass. But he makes the play at the end, the touchdown pass to Jacoby Lane, which is him making something out of nothing. And was that a play that Miller could have made? No. So, yeah, if that's the difference, that's the difference. Either way, I think that there's also this element of like anything you want to see in that game, you could see.
Yeah, it's
if you went into it saying that Jaden is not your favorite quarterback, there's plenty of stuff for you. Like you can make a highlight reel that says that. If you win in this game saying that Jaden Mayava is 1,000% your guy, then you've got the deep post to Lemon, you've got the touchdown pass to Jacoby Lane, and you're making a sizzle reel and saying, see, everything was here that I wanted to see. The reality, obviously, in the middle, and I think that there is, like, a couple days removed from it, I think there's this weird sweet spot of like, obviously you want to be able to control the game and you want everyone to succeed and all of that. But, like, SC won this game while getting a clear answer to me that they currently do not have the 2025 quarterback on the roster. And they still won. And it was a game in which the offense performed poorly to the point where I think it was another mark in the column of redo the offensive overhaul that the defense got last year in the offseason. If Lincoln Riley's not gonna be the ultimate fall guy for everything because of his contract and all of that, then the offensive staff needs to be overhauled like the defensive staff was overhauled last year.
You know what my hot take is?
What?
I think I am not expecting a massive overhaul of the offensive staff. I think that Josh Henson is going to get a pass because the offensive line has improved.
They have improved, yeah.
Across the season. I think the only like position coach that realistically, aside from Henson, should get a really, really close look is Dennis Simmons, the wide receivers coach, and I think that is next to impossible.
He's very close
of a
to
change
Lincoln
to happen. So,
and Hanson is his wife's on the staff, right?
No. Hanson is the tight ends coach. Henson is the offensive line coach.
Right.
Hanson, the tight ends coach, his wife is on staff.
That's what I said. That's what I meant, at least. Yeah.
Well,
so
I wouldn't.
Either way,
Hanson is not somebody I would look at as. I would give Hanson a lifetime contract at this point for the work he's done with the tight end.
Sure, I'm just saying that, like,
but the gist of it is, I think that there will not be significant changes to USC's coaching staff after this season, because I think after this season you're in a similar position to what you were after 2021, which is just change personnel and everything is fixed. Yeah. And I know fans don't want to hear that, and I don't know that that's the correct way to play it if you're Lincoln Riley, but I do think that is the way he will play it. So
I look at it this way. I think there were, again, I think it's easy to say that after the Cotton Bowl, I think both of us were okay in saying that Lincoln Riley could give the walking papers to Alex Grinch. At the same time, we talked about how we could understand why he didn't. We could understand how he could rationalize that to be the case, not to be the case, right? I think in hindsight, having learned about how the Grinch stuff goes, I think he needs to be more cutthroat here on offense.
Absolutely.
But
needs to and will are different things.
Yes, but I do think that you could rationalize a lot of this. And maybe each one of those points is fair in its own little way, but when you've lost 5 games in the regular season back-to-back years, you can't just keep giving things the benefit of the doubt, right? And especially when he didn't give the benefit of the doubt at all to the defense and overhauled the defense last year, and look how good they are this year. So, yeah. All right, let's get into to over-under and look back at our picks for the SC UCLA game.
So you're going over.
I'm going bold.
I'm going to do an under here.
All right, we got to start with the first one. Alicia, yours to me was 2.5 sacks for USC's defense. I took the under on this, and it was over at 3. I said I didn't feel confident about this USC defense, and they finally got one through.
Hey, they did it. There is some controversy, though, about my favorite stat of the season, and by favorite I mean least favorite. The starting defensive lineman sacks thing technically was broken against UCLA because Braylon Shelby got a sack, and he is technically listed as the starter in the game book. However, video replay has taken a look.
Wow.
And I can definitively say that USC's starting ends, play number 1 against UCLA, were Cam Fountain and Sam Green. So I don't know how that game book gets determined.
VAR stepping in.
But some controversy. I think we need to decide whether or not that stat is still alive because
I got an idea.
I don't know.
SC got 3 sacks. Let's just stop mentioning the stat at this point. You know what I mean? Like,
all right, that's fine.
In the sense of, like,
they've had 5 sacks in the last 2 games. That's I would take 2 to 3 sacks a game.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's perfectly standard sack production.
Yeah, you'd like 3 or more for sure.
Yeah.
Let's go to my first over-under for you, which was 133.5 Woody Marks yards from scrimmage. He had 142 plus in the last 3 games. You took the under. It was under. It was a $101. 101. Not his biggest game. Didn't have a lot of opportunities either.
I was just playing the odds on that, and
Sure.
most of it is because of the opportunity situation. Personally, I would feed Woody Marks until he has 150 yards from scrimmage every game, but that's just me. So
Yeah. Next one, you said over under 99.5 all-purpose yards for TJ Harden. I took the under, thinking it might just be just under. It was over, 135. He had a great game for the Bruins, one of 2 players that I think really turned heads, him and Sturdivant.
And Jake was big mad that Eric Bieniemy didn't ride that horse a little more. And frankly, I'm grateful that he didn't, because I thought TJ Harden looked really, really good.
Yeah. My second one for you is I think I'm all discombobulated, out of order. I said 1.5 Jaden Mayava turnovers. You took the over. By golly, it was under at 0. Big ups to Jaden Mayava, and I think that I think we need to be fair here in the sense of, like, I do feel bad that when we talked about Jaden Mayava and him maybe not necessarily passing the eye test. We've mentioned multiple times that, like, these should be picks. I don't necessarily think it's fair to talk about should be picks when Miller Moss literally had picks.
Yeah.
At the same time, like, both of these things can be true, right?
Yeah. I think you have to commend him for being a little bit safer with the ball. Yes, I think there were 1 or 2 moments. The closest thing to an interception he had wasn't necessarily his fault. It was a tip ball that just sort of hung up there that could have been picked.
The one for me was on was like a slant early on that drive.
Yeah. So there were certainly
went through the linebacker's hands.
Yeah, there were certainly a couple opportunities, but for the most part, I didn't think he forced very much down the field.
Yeah, I agree.
He was very willing to, when he was rolling out, to throw the ball away instead of risking the fumble that he had against Nebraska. So that, I think that is showing some growth potentially from him. We'll see if that carries over to Notre Dame. I think it gets the level of difficulty ramps up completely against Notre Dame. So we'll see how he does. But this was, I mean, if he can play without turning the ball over, I think USC will have a chance to win.
That's imperative.
Any game.
Absolutely imperative, especially on Saturday. Next one, you said over under 3.5 Jacoby Lane catches. I took the under. It was under. It was 1. Luckily for the Trojans, his 1 was very important, a 4-yard touchdown pass from Jaden Mayava to take the lead in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, he had how many targets? 4 targets. So he would have needed to catch all of them.
He had a drop on 4th down.
One that was bad, but
not the greatest pass in the world, but like it's in his hands. You got to catch that.
Yeah,
absolutely got to catch that. Last one, over under 49.5 USC 3rd down conversion rates. UCLA was really bad on 3rd down defense. You took the over on this, and it was under. It was way under. SC was not good on 3rd down at all. 28.6%.
Yeah. What can you do? Yeah.
All right, for the week, we went 3-3 each. I am now 40-28. You're 28-40. Nobody went perfect among the Rotbots. And let's talk about the leaders. We entered with a tie at the top with 3. Scotty C, Jensen SC 11, and Pickle. They were all right there at 40-20. Jensen SC and Pickle went 1-5.
Rough week for 2 of the title contenders.
Yeah. Scotty C, 3-3. So Scotty C now in the lead, 43-23. Jensen SC and Pickle, 41-25. Well, I still need to crunch more numbers because somebody might have caught up. But I'll crunch more numbers when we get more time before the Notre Dame game. Either way, your score prediction was 24-20 SC. I said 21-17 Trojans. SC ultimately wins 19-13. So we were in the
You were quite close, yeah.
I was just a couple points up, yeah. All right. Before we get to anything else, I got to tell you guys, there is nothing I'm looking more forward to than Thursday. not because I know you're thinking like the turkey, right? No. The stuffing. No, stuffing's god awful. The mashed potatoes. No, that's disgusting and not edible for human consumption. You're thinking, oh, the candied yams. Hell no, I would rather die. No, I am talking about the picks entry that I'm going to put together on Underdog Fantasy. I've got the app downloaded. I've had it downloaded all year. Over 5 million Americans have it downloaded. Underdog Fantasy, one of the leaders in daily fantasy. You can go over there, underdogfantasy.com, or download the app. Look at all of your favorite players in all of your favorite games. Look at their stat projections. Go higher or lower. You can mix and match different sports, different players. Thursday's going to be fun because obviously it's a big football day, but also it's European soccer, baby. Heidenheim and Chelsea in the Conference League.
That big old matchup.
I'm taking Christopher Nkunku big time on the higher for literally any stat projection he has.
The daily fantasy public is rare and ready to go to make their higher and lower picks for that game.
Yeah. Lions, Cowboys, sure. Amon-Ra, we're going to go higher, but Christopher Nkunku, absolutely, definitely higher. So check it out, Underdog Fantasy. Use the code Rant of Troy when you sign up, and you can get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Every player, every touchdown, just select higher or lower on Underdog. So download the app today and use the code Rant of Troy to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates, including California. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 567-369. Alicia, it's time to get to the mailbag.
You've got mail.
All right. We got a bunch of questions. Got to rapid fire through these guys. Let's start with a chat question we got from Funny on MC. By chance, where does ND stand if they lose to USC?
I assume this is for the playoff.
As a Notre Dame alum, I'm sure you're all over this.
Notre Dame High School. I think Notre Dame is in trouble if they lose to USC because as much as a rivalry game, you throw out the records, all that kind of stuff, USC is a 6-5 team. This would not be a quality loss for Notre Dame. That would give them two unquality losses, and they don't. That Texas A&M win is not carrying them too far anymore. Wins over Louisville and Navy aren't that impressive. I think they made Army look unimpressive. I think they're in trouble in terms of the playoff if they lose to USC. There is always a chance that they get in because we've seen chaos from the SEC.
Right.
Could see chaos from the Big Ten. Could see chaos from a lot of different areas. Mm-hmm. But I think that my suspicion is that the committee will not punish teams that go to their conference title game and lose, which is bad news for Notre Dame because they would need some teams to fall out over championship weekend, and I just don't see that happening.
I tend to think that they're in, but I think it doesn't help that Clemson, South Carolina is this week, and the winner of that game is going to be 9-3 with another top 15 win under their belts. So they could be a team that sort of moves up there, but it's still 10-2 Notre Dame versus 9-3 any of those South Carolina teams. So I don't know. I think they're in because there's just going to be
Notre Dame's
too much carnage.
Notre Dame's current strength of schedule is 2 spots ahead of Boise State's strength of schedule.
I hear you.
That's a problem for them.
I hear you. But the committee has always still put the teams with fewer losses in, for the most part. So, Ron Murdy says, can Lincoln Riley try something other than fade routes in the corner of the end zone? That's the $1 million question.
For the love of God, I hope so. Either those plays were designed to go there, and Lincoln Riley is a stubborn idiot, or Jaden Maeva was going rogue and not reading the field and just throwing it up because he decided he could. Maybe he thought he still had Ricky White.
Ricky White's not catching those balls.
Either
He's a
way,
good guy.
either Lincoln Riley needs to say, oops, my bad, that was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Or he needs to go to Jaden Maeva and say, no more of that. Or, and this is my galaxy brain sort of psychotic, uber optimistic insanity take is maybe Lincoln Riley has been spending the last month of the season since losing to Penn State and knowing that losing to Maryland and knowing that that he has spent the last month setting up everything possible for Notre Dame, compiling a ridiculously shocking game plan that Notre Dame will not have a plan for, in hopes of getting revenge on Notre Dame for exposing him and Caleb Williams last year. That's
what brand of tinfoil you use?
Reynolds is the brand. Thank you.
It's a good one. My frustration is college football has analytics now. Everything is about analytics. Why do teams run out of the shotgun? Because analytically, it says it's better to run out of the shotgun than under center on 4th and short. Like, look it up. It literally is the case, right? Why do teams go for it on 2-point conversions when you're down 14? Because analytically, it says to do that. The numbers, math, percentage point says it's that's the way to go. So then, why do they throw fades in the end zone? Because the success rate on those is not good. You know what I mean? That's what to me, the logic just doesn't balance out. Kenny says, saw this scenario on Twitter. If A&M beats Texas, then loses to Georgia in the championship game, do they get into the playoff? My thought is absolutely not.
If Texas A&M beats Texas and then loses to
4-loss team at that point.
That's a 4-loss team. I think in that case you're not in contention. No.
Yeah, I don't think it works for them. Let's go to an email we got from Kai on over-under tiebreakers scenarios. Howdy, y'all. For context, I'm super far behind. It's Wednesday night. I'm still listening to Nebraska Fallout on Spotify. Michael mentioned there's a 3-way tie for first place in the Rot over-under between the Rot bots. Just saying, if there happens to be a tie at the end of the season, I think it'd be fun to do some sort of Michael versus Alicia NCAA 25 matchup streamed on YouTube, Twitch, with a set of generic over-unders for the game. I have no idea what the logistics would look like to set this up, nor will I explain further. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Happy Rivalry Week and FTFO. Kai in Los Angeles.
I love it.
I think that needs to be in the cards. The only thing we need to figure out is I think we need a keeper of the over-unders because we should not know the over-unders before that game.
Yeah, because I am susceptible to bribes. Note that.
Wow.
Note that. Pickle, Jensen SC, Scotty C.
It's gonna be funny when I look it up and I don't know, Ryan from Arizona is in there or something. You know what I mean?
Somebody set the over-under for Alicia interceptions at 3.5, and then everybody smashed that over. Smash it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. Jake sent us an email. Hi, Alicia and Michael. The coaches and players need to accept reality and stop complaining about not getting PI or defensive holding calls. It's clear these penalties are not being called in the Big Ten. If the team refuses to run the ball, at least throw it to Deuce or a tight end who can out-muscle the defender. Better yet, run the ball. Jake. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think at a certain point, USC's wide receivers need to get better at accentuating contact if they're going to want any of those calls.
Yeah. 100%. SC has been burned. SC has benefited. Every team that SC has played, it's gone both ways too. They don't call pass interference.
Yep. Don't
expect it. They just don't.
Yep.
Emails from Tony in the Nora, PA. Emailed 3 times. First one, 1:16 a.m. Eastern. Michael, Alicia, this is Tony from the Nora, PA. Are you believing what you are seeing? What has happened all year is happening again. I have this sick feeling in my gut about the ending of this game. Later, at 1:57 a.m. Eastern. Michael, Alicia, this is Tony from the Nora PA. Jacoby touchdown, 4th down stop, defensive stop at the end. That was my Pepto. Woo! I'm feeling a whole lot better now. Tony, fight on. Tony again at 2:03 a.m. Eastern. Michael, Alicia, this is Tony from the Nora PA. I'm glad we won, but overall, it wasn't a very offensive game. Offense, defense, red zone offense was horrible. The red zone play calling didn't help. Didn't make sense. Fade. It was never open. We had unbelievable field position all game. Just didn't do anything with it. Jaden did make some plays, but not consistent. But he did make plays in the fourth quarter when we needed them. The defense gave up some yardage, but we held them out of the end zone. I thought the D-line had their best game of the season. If this staff stays intact, I see some great things happening in the future. Special teams, Lance had a good day making all of his kicks. And Chapliski had another great game. P.S. We must play better than this to beat Notre Dame. Fight on. Tony in the Nora PA.
Spot on, Tony in the Nora PA.
This dude can't miss.
He can't miss.
He can't miss. He cannot miss. All right, we got a bunch of voicemails. Some of these are longs, but we thought that they all needed to be heard. Let's start with our good pal, L.A. Fred.
Hey, Rant and Troy, this is L.A. Fred calling. Well, the Trojans managed to pull off a rare double feat on Saturday night. On one hand, they beat UCLA, which is always a good thing. And on the other hand, they were able to keep all of us USC fans frustrated and still questioning the overall progress and direction of the program. Let me start out by saying that beating UCLA is always great. I'm not taking that away. And I'm sure I'm not alone in having friends and family that are Bruins fans in our lives. And for me, that includes my own son, who graduated from there in 2015. But not having to hear the whiny little Bruin voices about how crappy their team is, but yet they still beat the Trojans, is a major victory unto itself. But do we really feel as Trojan fans good about the way USC is playing? I know I don't, and really haven't for the entire season. As we've all mentioned here, the defense is playing great. They've clearly made big strides. Danton Lynn appears to have been a great hire and is doing a fabulous job on his side of the ball. But I can't help but wonder if so much of the emphasis was placed on improving the defense that the entire offense was overlooked this last offseason and taken as a certainty. Lincoln Riley's 40-point per game offense is a thing of the distant past. The Trojans put up a season-low 19 points versus the Bruins. And this after putting up a season-low 20 points versus them last year. The average starting position the Trojans had was at the 43-yard line. 3 times they had first and goal inside the 5-yard line, only to manage 3 field goals against the 105th ranked red zone defense that the Bruins trot out there every game. USC had no turnovers and only punted 3 times. How does that manage to only score 19 points? What in the wild, wild world of sports is going on out there? Riley had the luxury of having Caleb for 2 years, and he was able to mask most of the underlying problems. I seriously hope the offensive staff can get some of this figured out for next year. I do want to end positive since we did beat the Bruins. I'm glad we're now bowl eligible. And it's not for the game, wherever it's going to be or whoever the opponent is, but I'm really glad for the extra practices and prep time it's going to afford the younger guys, hopefully to help them develop for 2025. Happy Thanksgiving to all. Beat the Irish. Fight on, everybody.
Thanks for the call. As always, LA Fred, that was great. I think that he hit on all the points. Yeah, they got to score more than 19 points, but they did all that stuff. To which I ask you, Alicia, was this like the opposite of the Minnesota game in that sense of like, if you looked at the stats, you did not look at you couldn't look at the score, but somebody just told you all those things that he said. 105th red zone team, you had 3 times, so you had the 5 or further than that with a first and goal. Average starting position at the 42. How many points should you have? No turnovers. How many points should you have? And then you were given a thing that said against Minnesota, you had 200 yards of rushing, average 8.7 yards per carry. You were 70-something% on third down. All these things, how many points would you have? I feel like you would say at least 35 in both of them. Right?
Yeah. And that's what's really frustrating about this USC team is, right now I am not expecting a big offensive showing against Notre Dame. Even if USC manages to pull out a win in that game, I think it looks far more like 19-13 than anything with more scoring than that. Mm-hmm. Which means that this USC team is trending towards one of the worst points per game averages of the last decade. 2021 at 28.7. 2018 is the mark to beat, 26.1. USC is currently at 29.3. This was not supposed to be the case under Lincoln Riley. You were never supposed to have a scoring offense under 30 points per game under Lincoln Riley. So that's frustrating as all hell.
I think there's a Big Ten element of the games being slower and the clock being quicker and stuff like that. But
but that's the difference.
It doesn't account for losing 14 points.
Yeah, that's why your offense only averages 35 points per game instead of 40.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get to a call from our good pal Dave in Orange County.
Radio Detroit Radio. What's up? This is Dave from Orange County. This is a story for they're setting up the Rat Bots, would truly appreciate. So we're trying to watch the game tonight here at David. With David the cutest and Dave the greater and, obviously me and Dave the lesser. And we're watching the game together. And I had just come from, my daughter is a 3-sport letterman at her high school. She's a senior and flag football, and she had a basketball game tonight, and she's also a lacrosse letterman. And her school in Orange County here is, it's technically it's Cal colors, and so it's got the blue and gold, and they play the UCLA / Cal fight song and the 8-clap and all that. I think it's real adorable. And so we had a basketball game tonight where they were playing, and we're going to be starting the USC UCLA game late over at Dave the Greater's house. And so after the game, we rush over to David Breeder's house and we go to watch the game. And this is just a slog of the game. I mean, you all saw it. Just field goal, just a whole lot of nothing going on. And we notice David the Greater is still wearing his Valencia High School gold and blue shirt. And we're like, we're about to lose this game. You need to take this shirt off and finally put on a USC shirt. Finally puts on a USC shirt. We score the touchdown. We get the 4th down stop. It's like, why were you waiting this whole time to change your shirt? You were wearing blue and gold this whole time, and you didn't even realize it. You were the cause of this. And then you realize, no, you're not the cause of this. So we have a mediocre quarterback, and we could keep calling him a gunslinger. We could keep calling him strong arm. Oh, he's running. He gives us a different dynamic. I'm sorry, you are a mediocre quarterback, and you're just not doing it for us. So we'll take the win, and technically we beat the spread. So you think we would be happy about a win like this over our rival and everything. And I don't think there's any one rotbot that's pounding his chest today. I don't think there's any one rotbot out there that's saying, we are SC, and look out for us, Notre Dame. We're all quaking in our boots for this game next week. And there's not a damn thing we can do about it. Maybe a defense comes up and plays lights out and maybe gets 3 whole sacks in the game. That'd be amazing. But at this point, we're just going to take the win. We're going to sigh a deep breath, and we're going to go into Thanksgiving and just hope that some sort of miracle happens next week. But until then, I'm very appreciative. I'm very grateful for all the Rotbots. And to all you guys say, fight out.
Thanks for the call, as always, Dave. It sounds like there was some cursing going on there. Alicia, are you going to be the next one with your Notre Dame stuff?
Absolutely not. Mostly because I don't really have very much. I don't think I have any Notre Dame. What do I have?
One of the original times that we had a tailgate, you and I, you showed up with a Notre Dame chair.
That was my mother's chair.
It was still in your possession at the moment.
It is not in my possession. That was years ago. That is not in my possession. I don't have any of the like T-shirts I would have had from high school. I don't have any of the hoodies I would have had from high school. I don't really have any Notre Dame gear.
Yeah. Well, good on you. Good on you. Let's go to Chris and Van Nuys.
Hi there. This is Chris from Van Nuys. Shout out to Alicia. Half rave, half rant. Just got back from the UCLA game, and a win is a win, which is fantastic. But it was really disappointing to see the state of the team right now. It was so happy that it came to the point where the Trojan spirit truly lives on at the very second half. But I thought the Pac-12 refs to the Big Ten refs was supposed to be an upgrade. It is not. It is clearly not. I can't wait to see what they say about the pass interference from the referee, but it's almost like they forgot where their flags were attached to their belts for any pass interference calls. This game was close, but this game was boring. This had all the chances to be a game where we embarrassed them, and it just wasn't there. It could have been something fantastic. It could have been something great. Yes, we get a bowl game. Yes, fight on, FTFO. We did it. But at what cost? Oh, I can't wait to see what kind of new fire this lights underneath us, because we gotta have a fire lit. We gotta have a fire lit. This is not something we can just sit back on and say, we won, next game. No, I want to see these lessons learned and enacted by next week. We need it. Anyway, fight on, fight out, guys. FTFO.
Thanks for the call, Chris. At least he's fired up, even if it's half rant, half rave. He's got passion there.
He's got that Van Nuys passion. It's representing from Van Nuys. Doesn't have an 818 error code though.
What? You're just outing our rot bots here?
Just saying.
Unbelievable.
Then again, you are currently living in Van Nuys. Well, not Van Nuys specifically, but in the Valley. And you don't have an 818 error code.
You will have to pry this 310 out of my cold, dead hands.
Yeah. But great call from Chris. We agree about the Big Ten refs. It's USC traded. Well, the Pac-12 teams traded flag happy Pac-12 refs that were incompetent for flag unhappy Big Ten refs who are incompetent. So, it's a net frustration, but still same old. So, yeah. And I do agree. I think that at a certain point you get to the end of the season and you're every game of this season, you are weaving a narrative, and the narrative this season has been very frustrating, but you can validate a lot of the more positive narrative by beating Notre Dame.
Yeah.
By going out there and show that, yes, you learned how to win. But then you also undercut any positive narrative if you go out and get blown out by Notre Dame, which is certainly on the table. So, yeah.
The frustrating thing is if SC goes out and handles business and beats Notre Dame impressively, people will be happy, absolutely. But also people will just be like, why didn't you do this before?
Yeah. I'll be happy. I mean, yeah. I will. You will hear a change of tune from me if that happens.
Yeah, sure. I'm with you. All right, let's go to a voicemail we got from Scott in Memphis.
Good morning, Michael and Alicia from Memphis, Tennessee. This is Scott. And, we won. And I think you touched upon it in your podcast, either this week or last week, that all three of our last games are in Los Angeles. And we're supposed to be led to believe that this Trojan team is just on the verge of greatness, that we just had a lot of bad breaks, that we're a good team. Kind of like Florida Gators. Very similar. I think the same amount of years that Napier's been at Florida and Lincoln Riley has been. at USC, but I think Lincoln Riley was supposed to be a much bigger hire. Anyway, these last 3 games, my opinion was that we needed to win them. And if we don't, if we lose even one of them, even if it's to Notre Dame, that Lincoln Riley is going to be on one hell of a hot seat next year. And there's no excuses. It's playoff or bust next year. So Lincoln better coach them up, because we're going to have to beat Notre Dame in order for this season to show progress and Lincoln Riley to show he is the one that's going to lead us to greatness. If he loses, no excuses. And I don't care what they're ranked. I don't care. We've got talent. He's had 3 years. He's got his coaches. It's all on him. And frankly, what I saw in the Rose Bowl doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence. I think that we might be in some serious trouble. I wanted to see major progress last night, and I kind of didn't see it. I see a team poorly coached, frankly. So fight on, and let's beat the Irish. It's a massive rivalry game, and we should win that game. So fight on. Take care, guys. Bye.
Thanks for the call, Scott, as always. I'm with you. I think that the Lincoln Riley stuff, I've given him the benefit of the doubt plenty. At this point, like this can't keep going on forever. I do not expect SC to cut ties with him. We know the contract situation and all that. But yeah, I think that it's certainly, as far as fans go, the hot seat is going to be there next year as it starts.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, hot seats and actual action don't always align. Mm-hmm. But definitely, I think you're looking at a situation where it's put up or shut up. Yeah. The crazy thing is, I don't think Scott is incorrect about like playoff or bust. I don't think that USC has to make the playoff for Lincoln Riley's legitimacy to sort of be restored, but USC needs to be a hell of a lot closer to making the playoff than they are right now.
Yeah, we talk a lot about the context. I'm sure that there is a context where you don't make the playoff, but you're very impressive and everyone feels good about the progress for next season. Mm-hmm. But I feel like making the playoff would obviously be a sign of that true to be the case for sure. So yeah, I think it's been too long. It's been too long. Let's go to a call from Trevor. This is the last call, and Alicia, I think this might have been your favorite call of all of these. You were doing the call stuff today.
I was.
Yeah, you were our call intern.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to Trevor.
Hey guys, Trevor here. Got a bit of a long one for you, so I apologize in advance and understand if you can't use it. I had a question for you. I was at the game on Saturday, and when I left the stadium, I went on the peristyle, I went on Twitter, and I was a bit taken aback at just how negative so much of the commentary was. The whole we played like crap, we coached like crap. Who cares that we beat the Bruins? We're 6-5. The program's in shambles. And then I listened to you guys' CarCast, and I was surprised at how negative the CarCast was. And I don't mean that as a criticism, because everything you said was totally valid, completely reasonable, it was warranted, and I agree with basically all of it. And yet, because I was at the game, I walked away with such a different feeling about that particular game. I go to most Trojan games, all the home games, some of them on the road, and the experience when you're at the game, particularly on the road, you're thrown together with a bunch of strangers in the USC section, and you immediately form a bond and solidarity with these people. As you're all Trojans, you're all together, you're all in enemy territory, you're outnumbered, and if you're lucky, you get a cool group of people around you, and we had an awesome group on Saturday, so we're just, conversing and laughing and joking and high-fiving, and we're also, bitching and moaning and commiserating, but when it ends, when we get the fourth down stop, when we're kneeling it out, we're all there together, in solidarity, celebrating together, having this communal experience of joy and victory, singing Tusk, chanting We Are SC, taunting the Bruin fans as they head to the exits. And so even though I leave the stadium with all the thoughts you expressed in the CarCast existing in my head, understanding that this is not acceptable for year 3 under our coach, that we have a lot of problems and the future is murky at best. I still have a positive feeling and feel like I had a good time and a great day and a great experience. And when I watch on TV, I almost never have that experience. USC football as a TV show is just yelling at the TV, firing off angry texts, posting angry messages. And when we win, it's like, all right, we won, but we played like crap. Because you don't get any of that like ancillary positivity of the communal shared experience being with other Trojans. So my question for you guys is people who've been to a million games but now exclusively consume USC football as a TV show, do you feel like that has changed your fan experience in a meaningful way and changed maybe even your general outlook in any meaningful way? Thanks in advance. Love you guys. Bye.
This is a fantastic call because since thank you, Trevor, by the way. Since we got this call, and Alicia, you wrote up the notes and the rundown about what this call was about, I've been thinking about my answer, and there's like a million different ways you could go. So take it away. So it's not provoking.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think that it's a lot, at least for me, and this is one thing that I expressed earlier this year, that you and I went to a USC women's soccer game a few weeks ago, and on Saturday we went to the USC women's basketball game, and it had been so long since I'd been to a live sporting event, certainly a USC sporting event in person. I mean, even at the Washington game that we went, the Washington USC football game up in Seattle, there is something different about being there and being in the energy of a crowd. And I think most importantly, having an emotional let off when things happen, when good things happen. Like, when you're watching at home and USC gets the 4th down stop, like at most my reaction will be, a fist pump and going like, yes, like that's it, like that kind of thing. Where if I was at the game, I would be screaming and yelling and jumping up and down and, doing all those things that create that sort of camaraderie and that community and add to sort of the positive vibes that you might be able to tap into. I think it is easier to tap into those when you're at the game and experiencing the game in a crowd. And I do think that does impact the way that I view this team for sure. I think there's no way for it to not, and it's one thing that makes me sad because, even when I was going to the game as media, as doing photography, I did feel there was a level of frustration on my part that you have when you're media and you can't cheer, you have to sort of like put on your sort of game face, and you don't get to have that explosion of like that is part of what being like a fan and rooting for your team is. Even so, compared to what I do now, which is I'm sitting at home a lot of times, I'm in the middle of work trying to do a million things at the same time. Compared to being on the field with a camera in your hand, and like even though I couldn't scream and shout and express myself, being able to hear the crowd, being able to sort of feel the energy, being near the players as they're freaking out or anything like that, like that does sort of, that vibe gets put into you. And I think it's easier to come away from any win, no matter what that win felt like, feeling like, okay, it was a win. As Lincoln Visor says in the chat, I think this is a perfect commentary. It's similar to going to a concert in person versus watching a recording of the concert. Yeah, it's about it's something about feeling the music in the air, feeling the cheers in the air, the vibes, just all of that kind of stuff. It does create a different perception of what the reality is. But, you know, at the same time, like as Kenny in the chat said, like he was at the game and he was still extremely frustrated. So it doesn't necessarily make up for all sins or anything like that. But I do think in a rivalry context, for sure, I would probably be less dour about the performance if I was at the game and if I got to high five my friends and you know have that kind of a dramatic ending is always awesome when you're there, you know, even when you're there on the other side of a loss like we were at the Washington game, like the dramatic ending, it was cool because we were there with people who aren't necessarily, you know, they're USC fans but they're not super affiliated with USC. They were sort of more there for the game, and like our friend sort of was like, that was super cool though, because like he'd never been to a football game that came down to the end like that. Yeah. And it was kind of cool to see that reaction from him, and it just sort of changes your perspective. So yeah, I think Trevor is onto something here, and that's just the way it is. That's why I would love to be able to go to games. Unfortunately, I can't.
Yeah, I think going to games is the best thing in the world. Absolutely, 100%. It's what I would look forward to every week as a child, as a teenager, as an adult. I do think that there is, as I get older, and I don't know if this is just a getting older thing, or if it's we've just been doing a podcast for so long, and then we were credentialed for so long, and went as media for so long, and then that kind of stuff. Or if it's just the apathy of SC football just being what it has been in the last 15 years and sort of stagnating. But I feel like the passion, it's not that I care less watching now versus before, but like it feels completely different watching a game at home than it does compared to being at a game in even 2012, right? Like completely different. And I think part of it's because watching on TV just never gets that same thing. Yes, you get replays. Yes, you get to hear about things that maybe you didn't know was going on during the game because maybe you don't have your radio on or whatever it is. Maybe you can't look at Twitter at the moment or whatever it is, right? But like,
not being able to look at Twitter, honestly, is a big part of how your vibes are during a game. I stopped looking at Twitter for many games this season, and it definitely made the game viewing experience less dire.
Yeah, but like, so I do think that it's dull watching the game at home versus being there. And the prime example of that too, because I think when you're there, I think everything is just exponentially pushed in every direction, right? The sads are sadder. The ups are upper. You know what I mean? Like, think about the Washington game. We went to the Washington game. That was a game going into it that was blah. There was no real reason to feel up about that game. SC was 4-4 going into it, right? And Washington wasn't much better themselves. Like, and it was a game where the first half was pretty terrible. And yet by the third quarter, we're all sitting there and like, you know, we're high-fiving people, we're eating touchdown raisins, and suddenly it feels like it's the 2007 Rose Bowl all over again or something like that. You know what I mean? Because you're there and because you feel that camaraderie and all of that. But then you lose the game and you can get, you know, more, you know, angry, more whatever, upset, sad, broken, all those things. Like it's just being at the game is just an exponential experience in every direction. So, I do think that watching the game as TV, like watching it as a TV show and doing a podcast and being credentialed for so long has changed a lot of our view on things.
Yeah.
It's all of those things. But watching it on TV especially, I think is the thing that just, you know, you can get up and go pee in the middle of the game and like it doesn't feel like a big thing because you're like, it's only 3rd and 2. Which I would never do it a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So I don't know. This sounds bad. This sounds like we don't care. It's not that we don't care. It's just
a different experience for sure. And I think it does explain some of the reason why people come away feeling differently about games. Like, I mean, even before Twitter, I used to, when USC would be on the road, I would watch games at home, and I would have the message board open on my laptop, and like I noticed that was not a good viewing experience because people on message boards are overly negative and it sort of like clouded everything. So yeah.
Anyways, that's going to wrap up the episode. Thanks as always for your calls, your emails, all the chats. We appreciate you guys. We'll be back Wednesday. Looking forward to talking SC and Notre Dame. Big one. We're going to have on a Notre Dame alum for that one to really give us some insight on the Irish. So check back for our special guest there. And we'll see you then. And then we'll probably give a little precursor to Elise's big day on Thursday with all of Thanksgiving looming in the balance on her performance.
Making the mac and cheese.
It's a big one.
It's a big one.
It's nobody cares about the turkey. It's the mac and cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Can you make Teeny's mac and cheese?
Can I get it right?
Yeah, it's the roux. You got to get that roux.
Got to get the roux right.
Yeah. All right, we'll be back Wednesday. Until then, we'll see ya.
See ya.
See ya.